you to kill that argument by saying this is exactly how it happened and why, not just trust us, there's nothing shady about a plane arriving in the middle of the night loaded with cash, which is, you're saying it's innuendo, right? You're saying there's nothing that was done that was not above board.
I think, Margaret, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, Margaret, is we could not possibly have been more transparent about this arrangement than to have the President of the United States announce it to all of you on live national television on the day that the agreement was reached.
The day the agreement was reached and the intent to pay the $1.7 billion, yes. But the details, like you're saying yourself, it's new detail in an old story. Yeah. I guess clarifying the detail is what would help.
But why is that relevant? Why is that relevant? Particularly when we all know that there's no banking relationship between the United States and Iran. So again,
cash transfer.
Yeah, I understand. Again, I understand the political attacks that are being made by people who are trying to justify their opposition to our engagement with Iran.
At minimum, the $1.3 billion is taxpayer money. So don't people have a right to have an answer to that question?
Again, that's why we announced it, as you point out, back in January.
But the details of that.
So, and what are the details?
From the trust fund to this bank, or
so
it had to be in euros and francs because we don't have a banking relationship because it's complicated. Like that would be a really simple thing that people would be able to follow.
Yeah. So look, I guess none of what you have walked through changes the basic facts here. We acknowledged, again, back on January 17th, that there would be all kinds of innuendo hurled by people who oppose engagement with Iran. Republicans in the United States who oppose engagement with Iran. I recognize that the details that you're seeking to elicit might make for a colorful news story, but they don't change the facts. They don't.
This is the Blaze Radio on demand.
In the next 19 seconds, you could sell your home. Okay, it's not going to sell your home, but you're going to take a big step toward getting it sold. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com and find an agent selected by my team, a professional who shares your values and speaks the truth. Sell your home fast and for the most money. Get moving at realestateagentsitrust.com.
Glenn Beck.
The Blaze Radio Network.
4 political stories that are worth your time. Everything else, I think, is a meaningless distraction. 4 stories. First one, Obama giving $400 million to the Iranians for hostages. Now, let me ask you. We're being told that this is all on the up and up. In fact, do you have the explanation? Listen to the explanation of this. And by the way, if you don't know the story, $400 million, the president said $1.3 million is going to be released and given back to the Iranians because we held $1.3 billion from them, and we were supposed to give that to them. Now, were you guys aware that that was our tax dollars? I thought that was just money held in a bank.
Yeah, I thought that was.
Right, no. This
frozen from Iran.
Yeah. Right, that's what I thought. Yes. No. These are $1.3 billion in our tax dollars. Right. So when you transfer money like that, you just you go to a bank and you transfer it. Mm-hmm. Well, they said, well, we don't have any banking systems where we transfer right directly to Iran. Okay, then you go to our ally and you go to Great Britain or you go to Switzerland and you transfer it that way. Mm-hmm. No. Instead, what we did was we went to the Netherlands and their central bank, and then to Switzerland. No, the Netherlands and where's the other country? Then we flew to Switzerland. So we got Swiss francs, and we got whatever the money is over in the Netherlands, and we put them on pallets. Imagine how much money this was. We stacked it up on pallets and then chartered an unmarked plane and put all the money there, and then flew it to the Iranians where they could take it. Oh, and we did it in the middle of the night. Gosh, that doesn't sound like up and up.
And they made it out like that $1.7 billion was going to be given back to Iran, but it was just from their frozen assets.
Yes.
And that's
not true. This is coming from our treasury.
So that all sounded fishy to this reporter, and so she's talking to Josh Earnest about it yesterday.
Very easy for you to kill that argument by saying this is exactly how it happened and why, not just trust us, there's nothing shady about a plane arriving in the middle of the night loaded with cash, which is, you're saying it's innuendo, right? You're saying there's nothing that was done that was not above board.
I think, Margaret, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, Margaret, is we could not possibly have been more transparent about this arrangement than to have the President of the United States announce it to all of you on live national television on the day that the agreement was reached.
The agreement was reached and the intent to pay the $1.7 billion, yes. But the details, you're saying yourself, it's new detail in an old story. Yeah. I guess clarifying the detail is what would help.
But why is that relevant? Why is that relevant? Particularly when we all know that there's no banking relationship between the United States and Iran. So again,
cash transfer.
Yeah, I understand. Again, I understand the political attacks that are being made by people who are trying to justify their opposition to our engagement with Iran.
The minimum, the $1.3 billion is taxpayer money. So don't people have a right to have an answer to that question?
Again, that's why we announced it, as you point out, back in January.
But the details of that.
So, and one of the details.
From the trust fund to this bank, or so it had to be in euros and francs because we don't have a banking relationship because it's complicated. Like that would be a really simple thing that people would be able to follow.
Yeah. So look, I guess none of what you have walked through changes the basic facts here. We acknowledged, again, back on January 17th, that there would be all kinds of innuendo hurled by people who oppose engagement with Iran. Republicans in the United States who oppose engagement with Iran. I recognize that the details that you're seeking to elicit might make for a colorful news story.
Good gosh.
But they don't change the facts.
This just is what you used to say all the time, that there will come a time when you will be looking at something and they will tell you it's not real. You'll be seeing it.
Up is down, down is up, left is right.
And it's not real. And that's exactly what he's doing here. We're seeing it happen before our eyes, and he's, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Well, what kills me
we're
is
completely transparent here. What are you talking about?
What really kills me is, I mean, you're right. We're transferring money, but why are you doing it in the middle of the night in an unmarked plane? Why are you negotiating?
A trust fund.
Right. Why are you having the Netherlands Central Bank and then the Swiss Bank? Why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, when do you?
And it doesn't. I mean, again, I go back to I'm an alcoholic. I'm a Mormon. I go to a cocktail party, which we go out places and people have a cocktail party, and my wife and I will attend. I don't stand there with a glass with ice in my hand. I always drink water from a bottle because I don't want the appearance that I'm at some cocktail party drinking. So I put my vodka right in a bottle of water. Okay?
That's smart.
But that's the same thing that the president and the administration should be doing. You don't want an unmarked plane in the middle of the night loaded with cash going to the Iranians. Why? Why would you do that?
From the most transparent administration.
I mean, it just doesn't make
sense.
That's
why we
sense.
told you about it back in January.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, first of all,
murder.
First of all, the francs and the euros, that's to skirt the laws of not transferring anything in dollars. We don't have a banking relationship. That money, why is that money not digitally transferred?
Yeah.
Now that money is untraceable.
So it can go directly to Hezbollah?
Yes. Now we've given them cash. Instead of having them have Iranian money and transferring those euros right into their bank account, and then their treasury has to take that and give that money out.
Being able to see what they do with it.
Right. Now we have untraceable euros that they can give to Hezbollah, who can give to anybody up in Europe cash.
And you probably understand this better than I do, Glenn, because you're Mr. Currency guy. But the rules when it comes to the restrictions of us doing business with Iran specifically dictate that we cannot trade with them in specific currencies like the U.S. dollar. Mm-hmm. So you have to go to Swiss francs to transfer that money, which is, again, another step. Besides the unmarked plane, besides the unmarked bills, besides the middle of the night, all of that to specifically skirt the law that's placed there so they can't do this.
So let me ask you a question. Why does the government want you to not take money in big sums of money in cash out of a bank? or when you come with cash and you go to a bank and you've got $1 million in cash, what happens?
They start tracing you.
They start tracing you.
They come to you and ask you, what are you doing?
What are you doing with all that money?
With that money?
Why? Why do they do that?
Because they think that you're going to use it for something illicit.
Right. You're either a drug dealer or a terrorist, because those are the people that are into the use of cash. It is why the European central banks and our own Treasury Secretary are talking about digitizing all money over $50 bills, because they know cash is untraceable. You're giving cash to the biggest terrorist country in the world. Mm-hmm. They are responsible for more terrorism than any other country in the world. And you've just taken a plane load of untraceable cash, specifically Swiss francs and euros, which, boy, by the way, did you guys hear there was another terrorist attack? Where did that happen? Where did that happen?
London.
London, huh. Would anybody notice the use of euros in London? Would anybody notice the use of euros anywhere else? You can't leave this country with $10,000 in cash. You can't come into this country with $10,000 in cash.
You can't even take your own money out of your own account.
Right.
Without creating suspicion on yourself.
Right. This government just transferred $400 million to a terrorist country.
That really pisses me off.
Oh, my gosh.
Not only can you not take the 10,000 out, you can't take less than that out.
Right.
First of all, the rule is no more than, if you take 10,000, we're going to watch you. And then if you take less than 10,000, that's illegal, because now it looks like you're trying to skirt the other law about the 10,000.
Yeah.
What? So I can only take, what, $20 out of my account?
Yes.
Yeah.
What if I'm making a down payment on a car and I just want to do it in cash because I don't want the hassle? I want the paperwork. I'm going to take that money out, and then you're going to start watching.
Unless you're Iran. Then we will hand you $400 million in cash.
Right.
And you can put that and use that any way you want.
Right.
That's insane.
And they lied about the timeline, too, because they didn't want it to look like a ransom payment. When the president was speaking, they had already delivered the $400 million, if I'm not mistaken. This is my understanding of it. $400 million already delivered before the hostages came out. Now, they tried to present it as, well, we got the hostage out, and now we've negotiated this thing, and now that's settled, too. No, we paid before we got the hostages out, which I think is a pretty big distinction, because that is a ransom payment. We're delivering $400 million to them, and then they're releasing the hostages. I mean, what? How dumb do they think we are?
Oh, they think we're very dumb.
Oh, yeah.
And they also know we don't care.
Yeah.
Because
that's what Russia is finding out right now. Russia has all this dirt on Hillary Clinton, and they're realizing, I mean, I can imagine Putin is like, good God.
What does it take?
Even the Russians would care about this. They don't, I mean, we have to